In part 2 of Pencils Down, we continue to hear from Jessica on challenges about the abstract and the many-dimensional and sometimes complicated current position of teachers. I also hit the teachers' strike to get a perspective on why they're out protesting in downtown Los Angeles, the possible motivation behind vilifying public schools, civil unrest, the January 6th attack on Capitol Hill. We also hear about where Jessica's future career is heading, and many other topics yet to be heard, as we continue where we left off with Jessica regarding safety concerns about school shootings.
Especially I'm living now in a more conservative area where I guarantee there's a lot more guns. I don't know, it's a fear of mine, it's brewing in the back. My safety is always brewing in the back of my mind, especially when I worked with high schoolers, some male students, that what they were doing outside of school, what they were getting in trouble for outside of school, that terrified me. That I was going to be that I was going to be thrown against a wall in the classroom, for just trying to tell a student to sit down while I'm teaching, so I was definitely worried about the anger being taken out on me because some students did try to do little things, the pushing, the throwing, like that kind of thing. I was worried always that it would escalate. And also into being having a fear of students. I had things stolen from me. I had things thrown at me. I had things, chairs and stuff or small things or pencils, or students who do push you out of the way because you might be standing between them and the door, or you might be just there when they're upset, right? So yeah, I did fear because I'm 5 foot tall. So I am short and I don't want to be the person to have to break that up. And so that was a fear of mine, but also I had a fear that I was going to be a target of a student. When that teacher at the elementary who was shot by her elementary school student, that was my lived fear, that I was going to have a student bring a gun to school and try to shoot me just because they were mad at me for whatever. I lived with that fear just because I'm a teacher today, honestly, and because I had some gun violence trauma from my college years. I did live with the fear that a student was going to be so upset with me or so deranged or mentally ill that they could do that to me. Today's bullying is way more complex than it used to be. Okay, it's not just direct, hey, so-and-so, your pants are derp-a-derp, or you're give me your lunch money, the old stuff that you see in the movies, or my dad when he was a kid, he was pushed almost naked out of the locker room when he was a kid. Yeah, that stuff still happens, but now it's way more personal. It's way more personal. It's, oh, this boy is friends with a girl. Oh, now he's gay. It's, oh, this boy, he likes to cook. Now he's gay. It's literally and then it becomes bullying. They try to label you, even though you don't even know who you are. That's always been a thing, obviously. I don't think it's gotten any better. I do feel yes, the younger generations are becoming more aware and more accepting of differences among themselves. But at the same time, I still saw so much ridiculous bullying, the stupidest stuff, just based on dress and stuff. Okay, a kid wants to wear a choker and the choker has a dog collar on, a dog tag on it. And it's kind of emo grunge or something like that. And then there's all these other kids who are of a different variety of athletes or something. And they walk around barking at students who are wearing these certain types of necklaces and calling them dogs and stuff. Just really weird. People are trying to have self-expression and then others are trying to put them down, especially if the self-expression is in any direction of the LGBTQ community. I think that's a huge point of topic of bullying, especially money, obviously, and sexual orientation now more than ever is a huge bullying factor. I don't think bullying has gotten any better. I do think that I don't even know. No, I wouldn't even say it's gotten better. Now it's just more shady. Now it seems more sly. It's not take you out back and rough you up. It's disappear. We're going to make you want to hate your life. We're going to just get some kind of antagonizing stuff that students do to some other students, it just, you can see how it affects the one on the victim.
Here are some interesting facts I found on stopbullying.gov. About 20% of students ages 12 to 18 who reported being bullied said that they thought those who bullied them had the ability to influence other students' perceptions of them, had more social influence, were physically stronger or larger, or had more money. Kids who are bullied can experience negative physical, social, emotional, academic, and mental health issues like depression, anxiety, increased feelings of sadness and loneliness, changes in sleep and eating pattern, and a loss of interest in activities they used to enjoy. All these issues may persist into adulthood, such as decreased academic achievement and school participation, which also leads to dropout, alcohol use, and early drug use. Kids who bully other kids later abuse alcohol and other drugs early in life and as adults. They get into fights, vandalize property, drop out of school, have criminal convictions and traffic citations as adults. They become abusive towards their romantic partners, spouses, or children as adults. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, non-binary, or otherwise gender non-conforming, LGBTQI, youth, and those perceived as are at an increased risk of being bullied. A study done by the CDC in 2019 called Youth Risk Behavior found that LGBT youth high school students experience more bullying at school by 33% among LGBT students and 17% amongst heterosexual students. Also were cyberbullied by 26% and 17% of straight students. In 2018, school health profiles, an average of 78% of schools across the U.S. states included in the sample reported identifying safe spaces for LGBT and transgender.
I would say like probably when you get to like the 8th grade level, yes. In the 6th grade level, people don't have, a lot of students don't really have social medias yet. Some do and some don't, you know, so there's maybe a little bit of that going on in early elementary and middle school, but like the late middle school and high school, I guarantee that there is that going on. I know that there are accounts that were created by middle schoolers at the school that I last taught at, which were like pictures of those kids that kind of dress differently, pictures of their outfits on social medias. And then they would say, look at so-and-so, she's so weird. Or like there was a whole account just for kids who fell asleep in class. So people would send their pictures of kids who fell asleep in class to this account and they would post it. And then like all the teachers were told to go and, you know, report these accounts because obviously it's harassment.
It just goes to show that kids in their infancy stage of life are more prone to cyberbully because they're not aware of the consequences. Nowadays, it can be as easy as someone just taking a picture and putting a caption on it, manipulating it in a way that tracks attention to a specific individual in a degrading way. According to endcyberbullying.net, more than 1/3 of all students are cyberbullied across all age ranges. Students experience online harassment at astonishing rates. The majority of all youth socialization occurs on social media platforms, so it's ever more hard to track and control what happens. Social media can be ever more harmful because the bullying reoccurs over and over. Things such as race, socioeconomic factors, LGBTQ are all at high risk of being outed against through cyberbullying. The anonymity the internet provides makes it easy for people to be bullied and to get others to join and gain acceptance by others who do the bullying. The truth is, bullies in theory have difficulty feeling empathy for others. Maybe the feelings of neglect by a parent or guardian are a way to gain attention and feel powerful, and with little concern of repercussions. It makes it ever more enticing to participate in bullying. Studies have said that usually the bullying occurs between friends that know each other. Maybe a small argument ensues to a larger issue, where the cyberbullying occurs after anonymously. Unfortunately, there isn't a one-size-fits-all to fix this issue. Even though there are laws and privacy settings that help prevent cyberbullying from happening, it is still an ongoing problem. It is said that victims of cyberbullying are 3 times more likely to commit suicide than victims of only bullying are 2 times likely to commit suicide. A major contributor to this is oversharing personal information details like sexting, illicit nude pictures, embarrassing pictures, personal moments, even boasting about a potential love interest. All this can be used against you in the future by someone with bad intentions.
Yeah, so there's that kind of cyberbullying where there's like accounts made by students at schools, like to shame others for sleeping in class, for what they're wearing, for like just pictures without their consent, and that's happening at the middle school level. I know that there's also like high school kids who have funny Instagram accounts to like honor their teachers, the funny or cool things that their teachers do. So I see a lot of high schoolers use it in positive ways to like show off how cool their teacher is. It's hard to find, who's the original poster. Who does this account belong to? Then you have the counselors, 2 counselors for 600 kids who have to do their own little private investigation on who is posting these pictures, and they have to pull in resource number 1 through 20 and interview individual students to try to find out and get to the bottom of this. It's not like Instagram can say, oh, this number or this email is associated with this account. It's like someone on the back end has to do that research to try to get this kid to stop, or it's going to continue, or Instagram has to realize that it is harassment what's going on in this account, and it has to be deleted by Instagram. But that just doesn't happen fast enough at all. Cyberbullying it exists. It does exist. In-person bullying, it does exist. Outright, like directly outright, but also like slyly, little things that start to like break somebody down who maybe doesn't have friends, or who maybe is a loner, or et cetera, whatever. Yeah, so that's kind of that. It definitely is a problem.
There is one thing I did want to touch base that I've noticed, is where some kids organize or instigate a fight at school just to get clout or notoriety. Oftentimes, it's been where the boy is singled out, unaware. Usually someone is videotaking a few feet away, and the antagonizer brutally confronts a boy, beats him up while others cheer him on, just to get fame and put on social media. I've seen videos where teachers were the target of this also.
I think there's a lot of teachers struggling, whether they're going to say it or not. I think a lot of teachers are vocal about saying the exact same things that I'm saying, and they're not shy about it. I think anybody who's saying otherwise is like one of those denial teachers who's like, everything's fine. It's fine, guys. We got to keep pushing through. Summer break is right around the corner, and that's like a very small fraction. That's like a really, really small fraction of people. Among my staff, if I could say 40 people, like 40 core teachers, not the specialist and not the behavior specialist, but like 40 core teachers, there were like 2 of them who were like not realists, who were like older teachers as well. They want you to stick it out. They're like, stick it out. You got it. Keep going. And it gets better. And so they're a little bit in denial as well about the true reality of post-pandemic teaching and just 2020 teaching. I mean, God damn, we had a crazy 2016. That was the breaking point. That told students and people, it's okay to be an asshole because you can still be president. So I'm just saying that changed everything. That sucked. That really sucked. You were literally fighting students who were like, well, the president said it, so.
In my personal opinion, I think that after Obama's presidential run of office was ending in 2016, Donald Trump ran for president, stirring up racial tensions amongst the nation, saying whatever bigotry came to his mind, making it seem patriotic to say whatever you felt. You could feel a riptide began to widen over the course of his run for candidacy. Many people that felt betrayed or forgotten during the Obama's presidency, Trump shook up and worked like the beat of a drum, with rants like, build that wall to keep illegal immigrants out of the country, mostly aimed at Latinos and Hispanics. African Americans were standing up in protest against years of police brutality and murder, feeling like no one is listening to their lives being in danger. On August 11th, 2017, white nationalists in Charlottesville, Virginia marched in large groups to protest in objection the taking down of Confederate Robert E. Lee statue. Openly displaying hate for Jews, chanting, "Jews will not replace us," displaying swastikas and carrying rifles.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
30 University of Virginia students met them at the base of the statue, surrounding it, showing prudence. Moments later, about 250 white nationalists started shouting, "White Lives Matter," and making monkey sounds, surrounding 30 of the students. Physical violence ensued from both sides. After police arrived, the fighting went down, both sides taking injuries. Who knew that that would be the precursor for the following day? Shortly after, the next day, in a clash between civil rights groups and white supremacists, ended tragically when a car purposefully rammed into a crowd at full speed, aiming to kill pro-civil rights members, injuring 19 and killing a woman 32 years of age named Heather Heyer. When Donald Trump was up for re-election in his midterm of presidency, he once again began to shake people up in Middle America, using the same old tactics and presumptuousness that first helped him get elected. Racial tension at an all-time high was brewing in schools and across America. This time around, after going through COVID and the massive civil unrest after George Floyd's death, Donald Trump failed to get re-elected for his second term. He would then later go on to claim voter fraud for why he lost the midterm election.
I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so. Because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. All Vice President Pence has to do is send it back to the states to recertify. And we become president, and you are the happiest people. And we're going to have to fight much harder. We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
For awareness, there's probably about 300 Proud Boys. They're marching eastbound in this 400 block of kind of independence, actually on the mall towards the United States Capitol.
I am not allowed to say what's going to happen today because everyone's just going to have to watch for themselves. But it's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
On January 6th, his supporters were inside a riot on Capitol Hill in an attempt to stop the counting of the electoral votes that would confirm Joe Biden as president. This insurrection smashed windows, vandalizing House and Senate chambers. Some even recorded with phones, further incriminating themselves, smoking weed, trashing offices, shouting, "Where's Pelosi's office?" In defense of the insurrection, it was later said by a long shot it was actually far leftists disguised as Trump supporters with MAGA hats that participated in the riot. A large-scale criminal investigation was undertaken by the FBI, where about 550 people went to jail or did prison time. 5 people died that day, 4 protesters and 1 cop. Months after the insurrection, 4 more cops would die by suicide or heart attack from PTSD as a result of January 6th. Trump was later acquitted of inciting the insurrection. The only thing he had to pay for was losing all his social media platforms. Their reason being for closing his accounts were inciting a riot and promoting violence. From my point of view, it definitely showed how fragile democracy is and how flirting with hate can have influence on people. Did Trump evoke hate? Or was it there all along, just well hidden? Is he the catalyst for future generations? Only time will tell. In this next part, I began to wonder how many teachers suffer from depression. I read somewhere that statistically, only 0.06% of teachers suffer from deep depression. When I tell Jessica this is what she had to say.
I think they're lying. I mean, if you look at a staff, I would say that, like, there's at least one person with severe depression on the staff. I mean, I would say like, or you can really tell who's freaking struggling because they're young and they maybe don't have like, they're just like, they go, I mean, they're struggling. I mean, really, I really think that there's at least one person on every staff that has like severe depression. I mean, that would be more than 0.06 or 0.6, whatever it said. I think that's, I do know that how many teachers are taking medication for mental health, for depression. It's probably, I mean, yeah, it's existing in the schools. I mean, teachers are on medication to manage their anxiety and depression related to their job and stress.
It is said that teachers are 3 times as likely to experience symptoms of depression. 1 in 4 teachers are considering leaving their positions by the end of the year. It was said by many around the world that the balancing act of teaching remotely and in person during the pandemic added to the stress level and burnout. It was reported that 1 in 3 teachers had to care for their own children while teaching. Even before COVID, it was documented that teaching was one of the worst professions in the world due to the health deterioration. This was documented by the National Library of Medicine. It was also reported that 78% of teachers experience frequent job-related stress, and 1 in 5 are not dealing with it well. It was also said that 27% of teachers had symptoms of depression. These impacts can also have an effect on student learning due to the teacher being less engaged in their work. I can only imagine how their own personal lives at home would suffer.
You really put on a show, you know, you go in there and you want to put on, you have to put on your best hour of energy. You get a 5-minute break, but even that 5-minute break is still in the hallway greeting students. There's no break, honestly, once you get there, but it's a show all day, you know, that you are creating and you're putting on a face. And if you let that face drop, I mean, they play off of it too. They're like, oh, teacher's having a bad day. We're not doing anything, you know? So they'll fuel into that crack. So you really have to be like on point. You can't let them crack you. And I got cracked a lot. I feel like I let them break me down a little. Related to that statistic, I would agree, if not more, are struggling with feelings of like, it just like, it's heavy. It's too heavy. The job is too heavy right now. So it may not be even depression. It may just be like all of this is coming down so much right now. It's related to politics. It's related to book bannings. It's related to like COVID. It's related to parenting and lack of it. It's related to like phones and technology, but it feels like it's all like working against teachers and it's really weighing on you. I mean, yeah, a lot of teachers would say, I hate my circumstances, but what a lot of them say, I'm ready to end my life. Like, I think that a lot of people can say that they hate their circumstances, but I don't know how bad it is I think a lot of teachers are able to like get themselves out of it because they have to do a lot of work in here to be able to show up every day and to demonstrate that to students. So you are already like skilled in like managing your own emotions. So even though you're feeling depressed, I think a lot of teachers have a very like realist view that they know that there's a way out if need be, or I don't know. I feel teachers are resilient. That's what I'll say. Like, you know, they may be struggling so much and they may be depressed or may say, I hate my job. I hate the circumstances of culture right now working against us, but they're resilient at the end of the day is what I believe. So although mental health is just pounding down on teachers right now in such a negative way, I think a lot of them will overcome, you know. Anyone you talk to in schools, I feel like is so in tune with mental health that they are like, yes, they're like cheering you on. Go do that. Go talk to somebody outside of schools. I don't think it's seen as a bad thing at all. And I think that other teachers would gladly suggest that you see somebody who is outside of the situation who can help you feel better about it. I don't know, but I saw a therapist in my first year teaching, and I know other teachers that have therapists, and we all are kind of open about it. At least the younger ones, like my friends and I, would be like, oh, got therapy after school today, or whatever, you know. It's just like kind of an open topic because I think a lot of teachers. I always say young female teachers, but I do feel like we are a very important demographic.
I mentioned to Jessica how women make up 75% of teachers today, and men only make up 25%, and if a lack of male presence made a difference.
There's never lack of male presence in any school. I mean, there's always going to be the history teacher, the gym teacher, whoever is there in that male, like always with that vibe, you know, of the stern male presence, which demands, like the warm demander, you know, that's always going to be there. And they're always, and thank God for those people who will, and those males who do take on that role, and they do take on those troubled boys who really need like a mentor. And they are like the key that we need to keep in schools, but they are really the presence as well. And they are like okay with being that presence. They know that they are valued and they know that they're necessary. So those teachers really step up to the plate to be what those male students need. So I don't really ever think I've had a lack of male presence in schools. I just think when you only see one male teacher a day as a male student, that might be annoying. I mean, you know, I mean, maybe it might be like, I mean, maybe not annoying, like, oh, all these female teachers are annoying, but like, it is nice to have a mentor teacher or like a mentor who is academic and who is of the same gender as you. So you can see like, oh, males can be academic, or males can be smart, and males can have big brain energy, and males can be empathetic, or males can be soft, because a lot of teachers are those things. They are soft, they are sweet, they are caring, you know, but they can also be firm and demanding and really set standards for students. That's so necessary.
I asked Jessica why she got approached to be interviewed by Vice.
So I made a video, post about it on TikTok, and I think that's how they found me, is that this side of Teacher Talk TikTok is sharing like the realities of what it's really like to be a teacher today, and how and why people are turning to quitting rather than trying to fix things. Why it's easier to just walk away completely rather than break yourself down physically and mentally for multiple years just to finally get a grasp on things in this ever-changing world. It doesn't seem like we'll ever be able to do that sometime.
I wonder if there's one thing you could change. What would that be and why?
Biggest thing that I could change is respect and like the demonization of educators that's happening right now, and the demonization of public schools. If I could change that, I would, because that is so dangerous. Like right now, because teachers are quitting, I feel like I'm part of the destruction of public education just because I walked out, because eventually it will come down to such a crash that we don't have enough teachers, and not everybody can send their kids to the private school, and privatization is ramping up, and that is really just the ultimate killer for teachers' morale and for the like continued success of public education in this country. It is just being brought down right now by people who are demonizing educators and public education and making it seem like teaching empathy and teaching like morals is bad. That's what I would change, because that's what got me to leave the classroom.
Jessica says something very important. You almost miss it. The demonization that's being put on public education is getting worse, and school privatization is ramping up. If you think about it, sarcastically, it's not like privatizing anything for profit that used to be free ever hurt anyone. Looking into this, I found what is known as school vouchers. Basically, state-given tuition dollars for a family to spend on a private school of their choice. This could be a religious private school or a non-religious private school. It's been said that conservatives are pushing for this to move younger generations in a more conservative Christian upbringing. There's also some speculation that some private schools influence students on readings and ideals of Ayn Rand's philosophy. To top all of this, some argue that this is just another massive drain of state funds that should be going to improving public schools, where the vast majority attends. Recently, Arizona became the first state to pass a bill for universal school vouchers, where any student eligible to attend public school can receive up to $7,000 or more every school year to attend private school or a religious school. Spearheading this decision is Republican Tom Horn, who wrote a handbook policy on how funds are used. Some say there is very little oversight on how the funds will be spent. There's concern that the money will go to families that don't need it, like the ones that already send their kids to private school, or families that earn more than $100,000 a year. One example I found in the handbook is where any child can be homeschooled by an adult that's only earned their high school diploma. So pretty much, if a parent or legal guardian decides to teach their child at home, they can also get paid for it, thus lowering our educational bar to a non-college educator. Also not taking into consideration of kids with special needs. This isn't available in all states, but it's possible more states will start offering them and adapt the system. Most states that offer them have requirements that schools must meet to accept vouchers, where only a few private schools get approved. There's also two other forms of this type of funding: ESA, Education Savings Accounts, where the only difference being is that they can spend this at whatever school they choose. There's also tax credit scholarships. State gives businesses or individuals tax credits to donate money to a scholarship organization. Students who meet the requirements of the program can use this scholarship money towards tuition at a private school. Most of these don't cover the whole cost or year tuition for a private school or a religious private school, being that the parents have to cover the difference. Overall, the funding for this is removed from public schools and given to private schools.
Right now, I think there's a huge culture war in education happening, unfortunately, against teachers because some people want to say that teachers are brainwashing kids into having questions about their gender identity or questions about whatever, or race, questions about race. When in reality, like, of course, I think gender identity, that's a high school topic. You know what I mean? But when things come up in the classroom where someone is being bullied, the teacher still has to handle that in a way that is respecting all individuals in the classroom. And that's where people are going to say, oh, the teacher's indoctrinating the kids. But teachers need to teach to treat everybody with respect. Teachers need to teach those like core values because that's the building blocks of our society. That's how you are a good human, is treating people with respect, even if they look different than you. And I feel that teachers are getting caught up in a culture war because they have to manage relationships and manage. So you're managing relationships between students in the classroom. Then you have parental pressures. So, for example, you know that this student's family is conservative, but you know that this student has 2 gay parents. You know, you can't be taking a conservative side. You have to say all families are different. Maybe a family has 2 dads. Maybe a family has 2 moms. That's okay. You have to say that in that moment. And that is creating a huge culture war of like teachers having to lay down moral ground rules for their classroom. And that's a problem for some people.
To top this off, a new form of mitigation on a number of controversial topics have abstracted the teaching duties also. Conservatives have started banning books that include mention of racism, teen pregnancy, sexual assault and abortion, or sexual orientation. Talks or debates, even posters on politicalized issues such as transgender, gay, or lesbian conversations are strictly prohibited in schools. Some advocates for LGBTQ rights feel that they're being told to go back into the closet, and that a nationwide ban on all things gender equality shouldn't exist in schools. With 155 bills in 38 states coming to the forefront in 2023, sounding like educational gag orders, schools and universities are being threatened or criticized due to this. In the past 2 years, conservatives have passed laws in over a dozen states on what teachers can teach and what they can't say, making it especially difficult for those states to even fill schools with teachers. Like I mentioned before, if the goal is to sabotage teachers with the goal of schools becoming private, I can only wonder who stands to profit from all of this. On February 8, 2022, endorsed by Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, a bill passed allowing parents to file lawsuits against schools if they believe policies violate the law. There's even a law making it a misdemeanor for a teacher to use any material which depicts homosexuality in the classroom. In Arizona, Republicans have introduced a bill which would require parental consent for a student to join a school club involving sexuality, gender, or gender identity, resulting in the student or child to come out to their parents first. Another issue that conservative lawmakers want to prohibit is critical race theory, also known as CRT, anti-racism education in schools. In Texas, schools have passed laws where they would suppress educational efforts that are critically needed to confront and address racism and discrimination of the past and present. It is said that most of the people that support these laws don't fully understand what CRT is. They've been swayed by misinformation. Why I think CRT is important is because systemic racism exists to this day, and the youth should understand long-standing inequality and how some groups of people are excluded or inadequately represented in textbooks. All we have is biases shaped by our experiences in the world around us and influenced by our families, media, where we live, who we know and what we don't know, and what we see happening in society. It's important to think critically and engage in difficult discussions to further understand injustice. I was always told that history was there so we don't make the same mistakes of the past. In theory, to improve and make ourselves better. It is also said that 37% of teachers reported being harassed because of school policies on COVID safety measures. I won't even go into the vaccine debate.
I was going to say, parents, I genuinely feel bad for parents having to raise kids today in such a toxic, high, stressful culture. I really feel like kids today are way more aware than kids used to be. Like, for example, just an example, 2008, I was in 8th grade. Barack Obama was having his first presidential election, That was when I was introduced to politics. And there was just a few kids who really had opinions. But now I feel like every kid has an opinion and every kid is being engulfed into politics a little bit, whether they want it or not. It is such a heated time, I really think, right now. So I do feel really bad for parents. I feel like they have a lot on their plate as well. That's what I'm saying. I had a student last year who would always say oh, you're so gay, fag, all these types of slurs, right? And I would be like, listen, we're not going to use that language. And he'd be like, oh, my older brother's gay. I can say gay because my older brother who's gay says that I can. And then the student went home and told his mother that I was saying he can't say gay. And the mom just freaked out and was like, I want to talk to this teacher, have this teacher call me, called my principal to yell at the principal. And then the principal told me to call this mom. But then I tried calling the mom and the mom never contacted me. She never answered her phone. She would never answer her phone. So she got really heated about some total misunderstanding because I'm sure that the student went home and said something ridiculous to the parent. And then the parent got mad, called my principal, told the principal, have that teacher call me. And then the mom never answered a phone call from me. She got super hot and heated about something that the kid probably lied about at home. You can't use slurs in my room. I'm sorry, but I don't care if your brother's gay. I'm gay. My brother's gay too. You can't say these words, who knows what the kid went home and said, but the parent got heated and didn't even call me, but then called my principal. And then I never heard from that parent again because they never answered my calls. So it's I just feel like a lot of parents, I wish that they would try to really work it out with it. The best parents are the parents who show up and who call the teacher and who support the teacher. And maybe they ask questions and that's fine. It's fine if a parent wants to know why they're doing this activity. I mean, if you have a parent questioning it, then you should probably explain it, but parents are valid. I just wish that they trusted teachers more and that there wasn't a public education, I don't know how to explain it well. Ultimately, what I wish for parents is that they really played more of a role in their students' education and learning. And I think parents' opinions are totally valid. You know what I mean? If their concerns about what's being taught in the classroom are valid, What I don't like is when kid says something to the parent and the parent instantly attacks the teacher. You should be asking your kids questions. You should be diving into what were you doing at that time? What was going on before that? How were other kids reacting? Getting to know, like, how did your child respond to, and then like teaching them maybe what they should have done. But like a lot of times parents really take it back on the teachers. I think for everybody to have a better, brighter future in schools, students and teachers, there just needs to be more allocated money to hire the right people to be in the schools working with students. Because I mean, that's the one thing that I can see truly, really benefiting is having the money to pay people properly and paying enough people to be there. Because I had to sub multiple days of a week for other teachers when they were sick. And it's like they can't even get enough subs in the school that I have to use my planning period. And of course, I'm getting paid $25 or $30 to go sub in a class, but that isn't always worth it when I want my downtime. But I have to go sub because we can't hire enough people, because it's cheaper to pay a teacher than to pay a sub. So it's really, I wish that money would get put into education and that people would stop making education a culture war. Ultimately, I think that there's like a whole side that wants to keep traditional values, and education does fight traditional values.
Just recently, on March 23rd, 2023, in downtown Los Angeles, teachers, bus drivers, custodians, and many other people who work in school services went on strike to protest. I spoke to many different people. This is a recording of one teacher who is anonymous and has been teaching kindergarten to 5th grade for over 20 years. This is a live recording of that day and what he had to say.
Okay, they've got $4.9 billion with a B in reserve. So it's not a question of not having the money as in past years, like during the housing crisis. Anyway, they've got the money and they just don't want to pay it. And from a working teacher's perspective, the cost of everything has gone up, from rent, most teachers rent, to everything at the groceries, a bottle of orange juice, meat, everything, the inflation. So just the cost of living in Los Angeles has gone up, and we need to take some of that money and get it to the teachers. We're working very hard, and we've earned that raise. So I was office temping, and then somebody said, "Why don't you teach, substitute teach?" And then it was just, that was it. I was like falling in love. It was like, this is it. I love doing this. So I've been doing that since October 2000. Trust me, if it was about money, I wouldn't be doing this, nor would most teachers. People ask me the question, what salary would suffice? And somebody defined it this way: enough money that the teacher can own a modest home or condo within a 30-minute drive of their school site. And that's why in New York, they make 100-something. New York City, I think the teachers start at $100,000 or more.
Washington's at 130, actually.
Yeah. Washington, D.C. But my point is, that would be, and we're not anywhere near that. But I think teaching should be elevated to a profession like doctors, lawyers, engineers, and a lot of the people, particularly the the people that want to privatize education, that want to bust the union, they want it to be, and they do think of it like we're the help. If you ever see the movie, that we're like on a lower level, like the people who retail or fast food and landscaping. They think of this as a low-level service job instead of a profession, which in other countries, in Europe, teachers are on a par with doctors, lawyers, engineers, and we need to make it that way here in the United States. And part of that comes with pay. Learning loss came in with, I'd say, middle and high school, to where, and this is anecdotally, they could not force the kids to keep their camera on. They could turn their camera off. And I had parents there. Those cameras were on all the time. But it allowed kids to turn off their camera. Once they turned off their camera and they turned off their mic, you see a black screen and you see their name, but who knows to what extent they're participating in the instruction.
To point out what he's saying here, they have the money, they just don't want to pay it. It's a big question with a not-so-simple answer. Public education relies on a combination of state and local taxes. Each state is different. Some states with lower income and lower property value have a disadvantage in this fight. About 10.5 million kids are raised in poverty. In theory, it is said that children who grew up poor are likely to have poor academic achievements, also more prone to drop out of high school. Looking deeper into what teachers make and why depends on a variety of factors, like the degree you have. That determines a lot of what your salary is going to be. If you have an associate's, if you have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or if you have your doctorate, the greater and higher your education is, the better your salary is. Also, the longer you've been teaching and the experience also contributes to this, but not by much. Depending on what state you're teaching in, pay is different for teachers that have been working longer than 20 or 30 years in the profession. Most teacher contracts are for 10 months of the school year. That pay is later divided by 12 months, which looks like they're also getting paid for summer break. Teachers get dental, health, and life insurance. They can also qualify for federal student loan forgiveness, but you at least need 10 years of having paid that loan to qualify. Another thing I wanted to take into account is the work that teachers do off the clock, like grading papers, planning a lesson. Far away from the classroom, this essential job takes up a lot of time that's off the clock and not being paid to the teacher. Sometimes mediating between a student or parent is also time-consuming that isn't paid for. This is an art teacher I interviewed that works with special ed students who also remains anonymous.
For me, every school is a little different, so there are schools and places where I can find time to plan, whereas the classroom teachers, unless they show up early or they stay late, they have zero time for planning. And it's just so essential to have quality education, to have the teachers well taken care of, to give them time to take care of themselves and be prepared. Because otherwise you're in this state of chaos, and there's already a certain amount of chaos no matter what, no matter how prepared you are. So that's what I can see from my point of view. As an itinerant, I can see that they would just benefit from that so much, you know, to have, and I don't know what the answer is to get them that time. But, but yeah, so I do love my job. There are definitely situations where, let's say I'm teaching a class and then a teacher, for whatever reason, for whatever hardship, they can't stay in that position. It really upsets the dynamic of the class and the students because of the lack of consistency. And then their ability to receive the arts instruction just drops dramatically because they need, it's that like hierarchy of needs thing. Those basic needs aren't being met. Their brain isn't ready. They're not, they need all these basic needs met. And so if they're not, then it makes those higher level questions and deep thinking and all that stuff, the creativity, just makes it so much harder for them. So I can say from my point of view, that's one of the things that why I think all this stuff is so important. And especially the aids for the special education, those classes, without those aids, which is this union, like as part of it, the aids for the special education
that's
classes,
what somebody was telling me here earlier, that
those people, we can't, I mean, you can see the schools closed down because those people are so essential to keeping us all safe and keeping the students safe. There's no way that I could teach art to a special education class if there weren't these people, you know, they are so important. So, and they're great people. Like everyone that the people I work with are amazing people. They're really, I don't end up finding a lot of people who complain or who, I see them experiencing the hardship, but I don't hear them complaining about it. I hear them wanting to do the best job they can. I really feel like that's what this is about, is they want to be able to just do the best job they can, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is...
At least that's my point of view from the people I work with. I work at 5 different schools, around the Koreatown area. So,
Okay. Do you feel that there's been a change in safety, maybe because of school shootings and the popularity that it's gained? Is there kind of anything that you fear or other people you might know?
I'm actually I support school police. I support having school police. I know that's kind of a hot button issue. I think whatever we can do to keep guns out of the school, that's, you know.
Is there anything you would think that could help, being that you're an educator, that would help prevent school shootings?
I think, not just school shootings, but just in general, more parental, the more involvement from parents, the better.
Okay.
Just on every level. Not just parent-teacher conferences, but regular communication with the parent over the phone. I mean, part of the challenge is a lot of the low-income people, parents, are so busy working. They're working insane 10-hour, 12-hour shifts, and particularly if it's a single-parent home, a single-mother home, it's not the same as if you have, you know, that could be more challenging.
I wanted to touch base on something he said. I understand some parents work many long hours and don't get to see their kids too often for good reason. I feel, personally, they really miss out on important moments that bond and create meaningful memories with your son or daughter. I know it's difficult to juggle many things for parents at times, and job responsibility is, well, so essential. I know it's especially harder on those who are single parents, but just remember, it's important for kids to have their parents be there for them, because it could mean a lot. Otherwise, in the future, you might feel bad as a parent that you let all those great moments pass you by. And remember, there's no turning back the clock either.
My last question is, what would you tell someone that's thinking of becoming an educator or plans or the future educators? What is something that you could give them or share with them?
It's incredibly fulfilling. There's victories every day, multiple times a day. You will get a boost, just a surge of feeling when you see a student or group of students that didn't know something or didn't get something, didn't understand something, and then when they do understand it and they do get it and they say, oh, now I got it, whether it's a math, whether it's whatever, that's you get those, and then of course the cumulative effect where you take kids that weren't reading and writing very well, and then by the end you know that their time with you, they've gone from being this intelligent, this skilled, and then they go up to being this much more intelligent, this much more skilled. It's very fulfilling, and we need to get, and that's what the strike is about. You know, I think every time, what I've heard is every time there's been a substantial raise, there have been a flood of resumes and applications to personnel. And again, you got supply and demand. The more people that you could be more selective, you could be more picky. And I think we should have 100% of the classes taught by credentialed teachers, taught by veteran teachers. And so that's, I would say it's a great job. Go for it. Go for it. All you college students or career change people too. It's very fulfilling, so go for it.
Thank you so much, man.
I would say there is like a certain spark in people that you know when you see a teacher who is going to be that teacher who survives for life. You know that there's some quality in them where they're able to like let all the bad stuff blow over them, but then they're really good at building relationships. If I were going to give any advice to anyone who wanted to be a teacher, I would say you could have no doubt. Have no doubt. I had doubt. I thought to myself, I'm kind of awkward. Like, I'm awkward approaching some kids. I don't know. Like, you know, if you feel you are like any bit having doubt that you're going to last, then you should switch. It's not going to be worth it, I would say. there's something that you feel inside of you where you know it's right. And I knew sometime in my education that maybe this isn't right, but like, what am I going to do now? So if you feel that way, like you should get out while you can, because you don't want to get that degree, go into a lot of debt, go through the process to then have students and then to be letting it break you down there. Like if you're having doubt, it's all like take care of it. Go talk to somebody who is a teacher. Go talk to someone who's a young teacher. Go talk to someone at your university, but you need to swallow that doubt and know that there is no doubt, or you need to get out because the doubt is only going to grow. It's only going to be harder when you're actually in the classroom, and it just doesn't get easier. I mean, it gets easier after probably like years. Like people used to say, oh, after your second year, after your first year, after your third year. But now, I mean, I swear it's got to be like, 5 years in is when 5 to 6 or 7, you finally feel like good. Because up until 5, people are like, really, 5 years is this statistic where people are deciding to leave. It's hard. Everybody quits for a different reason, and everybody struggles to make that choice. But ultimately, I left because there's a lot outside of my control. So much out of my control. And it was really affecting me mentally and physically to be dealing with that outside of school, like taking that stress home. I used to come home and be the biggest bitch to my boyfriend. If he didn't do the thing right after I asked, I would snap. You know what I mean? I would be like, can you take the trash out now? And if he didn't do it in like 5 minutes, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is the shit I deal with all day. Students that don't do it. Like, you know what I mean? It was like I was taking it out on my partner at home because I was dealing with the stress of being constantly like fought against at school, And so if my partner didn't act quick enough or my partner didn't act with enough enthusiasm, I was like, damn, this is the kind of same shit attitude I deal with at school with these kids, but it's not my partner's fault. It's like my partner had to go to work. My partner had to do all these other things in the day. He doesn't want me to come screaming demands at him, but just that high stress environment, the decision making that happens during the day and management of behaviors that happens. And like, it's just so much. You end up bringing it home. And then not only that, but just knowing that some kids are going to go home and they won't eat, or some kids are going to go home and their dad is a total druggie, or their mom is crazy, like actually has problems with the law or things like that. And it's really emotional to be dealing with going home to my safe space and then knowing that students don't go to home to a safe space, and then knowing why they come in the next day because of X, Y, and Z problems at home. It's a lot emotionally. You can't just cut that off when you go home. It's like when you're working after school and you're planning after school, you're planning your lessons a guaranteed, or like to the lowest student and to the highest student, if you understand what I'm saying. So you're thinking about the students at the bottom and you're thinking about the students at the top, making certain adjustments in your lesson to each student. So it's like you're thinking about those students at home because you're planning your lesson to them.
I asked Jessica how her identity built her purpose in teaching, and if she had a new purpose after quitting.
This goes a lot with identity and tying your identity to your purpose, or whatever you think your purpose is. I thought my purpose was to be a teacher and to be an inspiration to younger people, to get them to find something that they like and then to put time and energy into like go off with that. That's what I wanted to be. And now I'm like, I really just want a job where I go in, I make my money and I check out. Like my purpose is not going to be related to my job, and my identity is not going to be related to how I make my money. And it used to be so intertwined with being a teacher and, who I am. My purpose has been taken up into a tornado and spit out into 1,000 pieces. I don't know what my purpose is anymore after going through this. Okay. I don't know what my purpose is. My purpose is to find my hobbies, make my money, and to eventually be able to make money from my hobbies. Like, I don't know what my grand purpose is anymore, So it used to be, I want to be a teacher and I want to be this mentor and that's my role in life. And I want to be a teacher abroad and but now I just like barf at that idea that I tied my identity so much to that. so horrible for me. And so now I think my purpose is to like invest in myself. Obviously, that means investing into what my next career, but like once that's settled, I'm not trying to go above and beyond and to be like 200% of myself. I'm trying to be the comfortable 80 to 100% of myself on any given day, and to really find my purpose outside of work. The statistic is something like some crazy amount of teachers will not make it to their 5th year or through their 5th year.
According to a study done by the Environmental Rating Scales, 1/2 of teachers must serve more than 25 years to receive a pension worth more than their own mandatory plan contributions. In other words, teachers' benefits, despite their many years of service, they may be better off taking back their contributions when they quit rather than waiting to collect the pension. An analysis said that more than 3/4 of newly hired teachers will end up with no more in pension benefits than they contributed to their retirement plan. Short-term teachers subsidize the benefits received by longer-term teachers, with only 1/4 of teachers reaching the break-even point.
It is just so exhausting. I mean, it's all the things that I described to you, but it's this feeling of like things are changing around teachers so fast. 2016 election, 2020 election, pandemic, all of this culture stuff, like everything is changing around teachers so fast. I really feel like it's really hard to get a grip on anything. I mean, I decided I don't want to keep working through these conditions. Part of what I wanted to say on this podcast is that like being a teacher was part of who I was, and I had to step away from that. And it took me a year to finally heal from that burnout and to say, I'm not a teacher anymore, and that's not part of my identity. I mean, it's still like who I am a little bit inside, but it's not like how people know me. It's not how people identify me. Like everyone knew me as a teacher before, you know, like I'm a teacher, like I am that person in people's lives. That's how people identify me. And now, since leaving teaching, I don't identify with being a teacher, and I just want to emphasize like how important it is for people to not identify with their work to like the core of their being, you know, to say like everything that I am is because I am a teacher and because I am this role in students' lives. Like I tried, like I hyped that up too much in my own head about who I was going to be and the change I was going to make in others' lives, and that became so much part of my identity that like leaving that behind was so hard. So even in what you're allowed to display on social media, I mean, I changed my social media names just so that students wouldn't find me. I was afraid to post a picture of me holding any sort of cup that looked like alcohol. I was afraid to show that I was at a party, at a concert, because there's such a stereotype, or like not a stereotype, there's such a teachers have to be a certain way. Teachers can't have fun after school. Teachers can't have fun on the weekends. When you see a teacher at the grocery store, they're supposed to be like robot teacher, you know what I mean? And it's like that really takes over who you are when you're in the teaching role. And then finally, when I was able to break free from that, it was a year until now of like being able to heal from that, you know? So it really takes a long time to heal from this like identity loss that I would describe. For like the first 6 months, I was like grieving this part of who I was that I lost, and that I said, I'm no longer this person. I'm not a teacher. I don't ever want to be tying my personality and worth and identity to my job like that again. And I hope that teachers who are maybe hearing this can take a step back and say, I am all these things, and teachers are so, so important, but it is so important that like I have all these other hobbies on the side. Like I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I'm an athlete, whatever it is that I'm a reader, but don't be just a teacher. That's what I'm saying. Don't be just a teacher. I was just a teacher because I didn't have the time, energy to be anything else. And like now that I have the time and energy to be myself, I feel like amazing. And I just hope that other teachers have the opportunity to do that, because it's so tough to like make time for yourself as a teacher. Oh, it's kind of hard to say what I'm doing now. Like I'm learning all these different programming languages and concepts, and I'm attempting to get like a similar job to what my boyfriend has, which would just be like a software developer. And so I've kind of tried to go that route, and I've been working at like a gift shop in my small town on the side. And yeah, that's been pretty difficult, but
I myself also studied computer science and can tell you it's not an easy thing to learn. It takes years to get the concept of many different languages. It's one thing to use apps, but to code and program is completely different.
I didn't have a plan when I left. I mean, my plan was to try to become a software engineer, and that is just, it's obviously hard. It takes time. Yeah, I'm just going to become a software engineer like overnight. So it's been a year, but at the same time, I didn't quit December 2021. In January of 2022, I mean, I was like dead tired, relaxing. Like, a year ago or whatever, I had just started the learning process. I mean, yes, it's been a year, but like, it's still going to take more time. And I don't regret it. I wish that I had like a more stable career, but like I'm supported right now with my boyfriend. So I have all the privilege right now to have made that choice, which is another thing I feel bad about. The fact that I was able to leave when others aren't, it does feel bad because I have a boyfriend who makes enough to support both of us, which is like rare. So it does feel pretty bad to have left behind, without a plan. Like, that's privilege. Living with a partner is definitely helped me financially because he makes way more money than like I would ever make in my career as a teacher. I mean, he started out with $65,000 and now he's making, $85,000. That's insane. You know what I mean? Like, to reach $65,000 teacher, I mean, it's going to take you a long time if you don't have a master's degree. Being a teacher, I don't think it's a sustainable financial career if you want to have a family and not count on a man or not count on your partner, whether it's man or woman, whoever. But like, if you don't want to depend on your partner, then being a teacher is not like, and you want a family, being a teacher is not the route to go unless you have a rich partner. Teacher salary and living on your own and stuff, like, I don't know if you can do it without having roommates. So I'm not really sure I don't know. I just don't think so. I mean, rents are so high. You need roommates.
Today, teaching sounds very complex and challenging. Like in most careers or jobs, you start with a hopeful outlook of what you're doing is contributing greatly to you and others. Then over time somewhere, you begin to see the cracks widen. In doing this, I look not to dissuade anyone from becoming a language teacher or disencourage future educators. This is simply an observation to encourage future prospects to become resilient of what the system and job entails. Also to be the change from within, and for anyone to ask questions like, who built this system and why is it so broken? Who is gaining financially from all of this? What will all this mean for younger future generations to come? What collective generational outcome will the effect of the COVID lockdown have in future adults that fell behind in their education? I hope we learn from Jessica and maybe look back with having made greater progress in the system of education. I hope we take better account of what teachers go through and the sacrifice they undertake to give your son or daughter an education.
I just wish that parents would know that, like, all the teachers' opinions, they just want what's best for their kid. And parents need to work with teachers and teachers need to work with parents.